Yeah,
John brings
that
up a good
just
point about
yeah,
things like AP and Reuters, and I know that with the
yeah,
Union they wanted, you got a little bit into Reuters and their history. So maybe first can maybe get into
yeah,
the Reuters history because it is, and you go on Twitter. I mean, I'm off of Twitter now. I deleted my account, about to delete my Facebook, but it says, oh well, the elections. Not that we all know that elections are all BS anyways, but it says the elections are certified by AP doesn't say this and Reuters doesn't say this, and so can you maybe first give a little history into Reuters and where they came from, and then maybe pivot into Cecil Rhodes and the CFR and
I'll tell you what, when I get to 1828, remind me of Reuters. And what I'm going to
okay,
do is I'm going to answer all those questions in a narrative format in chronological order. And then at the end, I'll take you to my history blueprint. I'll click a button like this. You can see it. And then I'll take you through so you could actually follow along because I can give you a link at the end of the show and you could just click through the stuff that I'm about to show you. So it's a narrative, but it's backed up. The narrative only consists of artifacts of evidence that exist in objective reality. Does that make sense? Let me take a sip.
it does. And just so people know, we had maybe like a 3-minute pre-show call for this. It's not like we're CNN and have been scripting this.
No, we're
out
doing
for
it
months.
live.
This is we're going live, and this is just three guys, mainly Richard, with information that's off the top of his head, which is why we love to have brilliant minds like yourself on the show.
And I consider it good exercise. So the way I could start this is in 1776, America separated from the British Empire. And at that point, the British Empire had a lot of interest, not just in America, around the world. It was into colonialism. It formed colonies through trade. So it would start with the East India Company and they would set up a trading post. And then from there, they'd set up a Freemasonic lodge. And then from there, you would have little colonies. And from there, they took over countries. There's a great book called All the Countries We've Invaded and a Few We Didn't Get Around to. And basically, if you look at the map, at one point or another, the British Empire pretty much had taken over the whole world at one time or another, not all at once, but that goal was there to take over the world. So after 1814 at the Battle of New Orleans, when the British get beaten off for a second time, sorry, that's a bad pun. And then they kind of leave us alone. Why did they leave us alone? Well, they started to go subjugate China and India more specifically. So while the American colonies are left up until the Civil War without a whole lot of British interaction, though
and
there is
Canada.
some,
Sorry to interrupt
and
you.
Canada, so they're part of this triangle trade of molasses and cotton. And, over here on the Atlantic, on the other side, the British had another triangle trade where they take finished cotton from Manchester mills and they take it over to India and they trade it for opium. They take that opium to China because China wouldn't trade for Western goods. And they had a problem. Before the American Revolution, the British Empire had a problem and Europe had a problem insofar as they opened up trade with China. They started to get the tea and the silks and these sort of things, but the Chinese wouldn't take any of the Western goods because they were inferior and lacked excellence. So all the silver and gold from Europe was going over to China. At some point, the people over in Europe and Britain and the East India Company, they said, hey, we got to get some of that back. These people won't trade with us. How shall we deal with this? And starting after Queen Elizabeth, because she was part of the opium empire that was built forward, they started to bring opium into China and then forcibly. And then there was 2 opium wars during the 1800s while America was left alone pretty much from Britain. There were opium wars going on the other side of the world. This goes on in the 1850s, right before our American Civil War. So at that time, so I'll go back to 1828. I'm going to have to go back probably to 1805 a little bit to tell this story because it's not just the British Empire. There was a merger between the empire power, the monarchy, and an international banking power. And that merger, the story of that merger starts in 1805, 1806, and it turns into Napoleon invading Prussia, what is now Germany, these areas of the Germanic tribes. Napoleon's in there. He has an amateur ragtag army of revolutionaries with him, and the Prussians pride themselves on professional armies. When the Prussians get beaten by Napoleon at Jena, it has a whole bunch of consequences down the line. From that line of causality, you have the Prussian education system, which is a system of indoctrination. So people will stand on the battlefield in front of the bullets. That's what it was created for after von Clausewitz and these other guys made observations. Why did they lose to Napoleon, right? That's brought into America to dumb us down in the 20th century. But the part we need to follow is the British in this endeavor have Wellington, who doesn't have enough money for his troops around 1811, 1812. So the Rothschilds, Nathan Rothschild specifically, borrows or gives. Was it his to give? We don't know, but this is where the gold comes from. The East India Company gold that Nathan gives and puts the government of Britain into debt to him to win the war. And then he greatly prospers on the news that Wellington wins the last battle at Waterloo. So that's where Napoleon's defeated. That's the end of that little story. But from there, the Rothschilds then in 1818 bailed out the Bank of England. So they didn't just bail out the country and the monarchy in Wellington with the East India Company gold that came from subjugating Chinese people with opium. They also bailed out the Bank of England. So after you bail out the Bank of England and the monarchy, I'd have to say you're at least on equal footing, and they need each other. The financial power is not a whole lot of good without the monarchical power. And the monarchical power, if they don't have money in their war trunks, they can't do all these things around the world. So it's a symbiotic relationship. That goes up to 1828 when the Rothschilds partnered with the Reuters news company and became involved in being a hub of transmitting news. Now, this is well after the Wellington, and they got the news first. So they already had an interest in how do we get information faster than other people, because that gives us an advantage. These are all strategic, tactical aspects of business, and they are to be observed and not judged, right? I'm just looking at the history, I'm not making any judgments. So they get involved with Reuters. Then also The Economist is a Rothschild entity up to this day. They both still have influence together, Reuters and Economist, with the Rothschild banking family. And what we see today, this whole Davos, World Economic Forum, Great Reset, this is not new. This is something they called in 2013 inclusive capitalism. So if you type in inclusive capitalism, you'll see their website's still up. It's E.L. Rothschild, Lynn Forrester to the Rothschild, Christine Lagarde from the World Bank, Prince Charles is there. And they say in this room at Lagarde's keynote speech, she says, I want to thank Lynn Rothschild. I want to thank E.L. Rothschild. I want to thank Prince Charles. In this room, we have 1/3 of the world's wealth. And we think that there's too much poverty and we should use our wealth to take care of that, right? So basically the people causing the massive problems out there in the world have now assigned themselves to be the solution carriers. And that is fully what Klaus Schwab is latching onto with Great Reset. So it's not just, and you just saw Prince Charles a couple of days ago shilling for the whole Great Reset. They are conglomerating their policies and plans and putting them about 10 years ahead of schedule right now.
So if you guys enjoyed that clip, please head over to timandjohnshow.com to watch the full episode. You can also get the audio version on the website as well, in addition to your favorite podcasting app. At timandjohnshow.com, you can also sign up for our email list, which is the first place you'll gain access to our long format shows. These shows are self-hosted, so if you want them first, you have to be on the email list or frequently check our website. You won't get the videos first, but you can also find them on odyssey.tv, lbry.tv, and bitshoot.com. And if you are happy with getting the clips after everyone else, then you can keep watching us on YouTube, in which case we ask that you smash that like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and turn on all notifications. Thank you.